Mark, we got to make a video. Can I steal your seat? Thanks, mate. Oh, yeah. G'day, everybody. How are you going today? It is so very good to see you. Today, we are going to talk about the 24-200 VR compact super zoom lens. And I thought to show off this lens, I would actually open this video by shooting on it. So there it is, right there on the Z7. We are shooting in 4K with a flat profile at 24 frames per second, and we are currently at about the 90mm mark to get this shot, whereas the first shot was wide open at 24mm. Now, I've had this lens for almost a year. I purchased this lens though in lockdown, and for more than 6 months, I wasn't even able to really get out and shoot anything with it. But it's time for me to tell you what I think of this lens and why it's so fantastic as an all-rounder lens. What's amazingly impressive about this lens that, look, it doesn't have the same levels of suppression of chromatic aberration and flaring and all those sorts of things, but it's a 24-200mm lens and it's super small. What I'm going to do now is take the lens off the Z7. We're going to swap it with the 24-70 and then I can show you physically what it actually looks like. Okay, let's swap lenses. And here it is, the 24-200 VR on the Z6 II. There it is at 200mm and there it is at 24mm. Now the apertures go from 4 at wide open to 6.3 at 200. So really the only downside of this lens is those apertures, but of course you've got the VR and you've got the in-body stabilization. So that means that you can decrease the shutter speeds to compensate for those larger numbered apertures, those smaller physical apertures. As technology pushes on, ISO becomes less of an issue, and of course we can just simply go higher ISOs. I'll tell you what I love about this lens. Look at the size of it. It's absolutely tiny. It's a fantastic travel and just use on holiday or whatever type of lens. It's also very, very light. It does have a control wheel here, which can be used. It can be programmed to do different things like aperture, of course, shutter speed, ISO, and so on. I'd love to take you through some of the images from the 24-200. This lens has impressed me and I'm going to get some more nighttime images, but let's start with the images to date, which was a kind of half overcast, half not overcast day. I didn't realize this had happened and I'm not sure why it did this because I never shoot DX, but this is actually the 24-200 shot on the Z7 in DX, in crop mode, in APS-C. And we can see here, because of the pixel count, this is the Z7 and this is the pixel count. So we are cropped to DX, which is fine. The video in this video is all at 24mm. Don't know why I didn't pick it up. When I was shooting these images here, I was like, is that 24mm? And I kind of didn't think it was, and it was like, but I've got it wide open. I instinctively felt it, but I didn't check. And then when I got back to my desk, I actually checked, and it was like, oh yeah, nah, good one. Let's look at what we've got. So these are all DX images shot on the Z7, just shy of 20 megapixel images, still looking fantastic. Keep in mind, my screen is a 5K screen, so when we go to 100%, it's because it's a 5K screen. And if you just look in here at all of this detail and the rendering here, it just looks fabulous. Now, I've talked about the fact that a lens that's 24-200, you cannot expect it to have the same flare reduction and chromatic aberration reduction or suppression that you get from, say, a prime lens, which is the same price and it just does one thing. And so we can see a little bit of purple fringing up here. The sun is right here, and look, that's to be expected. So it does appear at times We're wide open for this lens. I'm deliberately shooting into the sun, but I'm not worried about that. I just think once you see the versatility of this lens, you kind of go, wow. So here's a laneway. This is at 200mm, so 300mm equivalent, uncropped. I've done very little to this image. I've brought up the shadows. That's it. Look at that color rendition. This is what Nikons do. This is what these lenses are capable of. There's almost nothing happening to this image, and it's still vibrant and exciting. By the way, I have added a vignette, just to be very clear. I found the corners way too bright, as you can see here. When I get rid of that vignette, I just don't like that. It's just my style. That's subjective, but I prefer this. So that is not the lens, and we're cropped, so we're using the center of the lens anyway. Having a look at this image here again, just the level of sharpness in this lens. I mean, it's just fabulous. There we are at 100%, and I've turned everything up to maximum. We could turn it down a little bit, but this is just sharp, 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 sharp. Interestingly, we're only at 58mm, which is just about 100mm, and that still feels quite zoomed to me. This is a huge, almost 100-story building, or it might even be 100-story, but I don't know exactly how many stories this building has. It's now the tallest building in Melbourne, and yeah, it looks great. Remember, do this times 1.5, let's call it 60, so that's just shy of 90 mils. Looking great. But also, I was trying to show off the macro capabilities. I'm not sure this is the closest that I got, but here is some flowers. The sun hadn't fully come out at this point. As I said, that the weather was quite variable on this day. The sun was coming and going at a huge pace, but close-up images like this are possible, and I'm at full 200mm, 1/25th of a second, and I'm not a macro photographer, so I'm doing probably a terrible job. I didn't put a lot of effort into this shot. These flowers were blowing in the wind quite quickly, but you can see you can get quite close. As we can see here, there is also some macro capabilities where we can get pretty tight. All the way out to a wide scene like this. Amazing. I think it's a great all-rounder lens that's been undervalued. Look how good this scene looks. We're losing the sun again, unfortunately. Isn't that lovely? That's a 24. That's at 200. So here we're looking at the top of like a 65-story building, and it's only at 91mm, but that's more like 140, 130mm. And if we go to 100%, you can just see the detail. Look at this detail in these antennas. I mean, that's just fabulous level of detail. 200%, all that information's there. We're at 200%, so obviously we're beginning to pixelate. But look at that, fine cables and so on. Again, this is the more in the center of the lens because I've accidentally cropped to DX. My favorite image is this one from the day, almost at 100mm once you take into account the crop factor, but I just love the light and the color. I've done a little bit of augmenting to this just to give you a quick look. I liked the color in here, so I turned it up a bit, the color in the buildings. As you can see, it's a pretty minor difference, but I thought it just makes the image more vibrant. And I've also dodged out this bottom area here, as you can see. And besides that, yeah, it's pretty minor changes to the image. A bit more saturation, shadows up, highlights down to bring up the cloud detail, and that's it. That's it on a very small vignette, because again, I just like that look. But if we go in to 100%, we can just see how beautifully crisp and sharp this lens is. Look at it, all through here. All through here, sharp from this foreground. This building here is probably somewhere in the vicinity of half a mile away, and yeah, nice through here.
The sun's shining in the background here, and not too much sign of chromatic aberration. There's a little tiny bit there, maybe the tiniest amount of purple fringing. But I'm really impressed by that shot. No sign of flaring and ghosting, but we do have the sun. Not directly into the lens. I don't think the sun was on me, but we can see the sun is here. Now, I was on my Segway scooter zipping around, and I only spent about an hour capturing these images because my car was going to expire just based on what was happening that day. Interesting, just as a quick aside, this is Ponyfish Island, and we can see here that the water is extraordinarily high. It doesn't get this high very often, and it's not far from overwhelming this cafe that sits in the middle of the river on this little island. Another one of my favorite images from the session is this one here, and this is bounced light. So we have the sunlight coming at us, but then there's this massive fill, like a giant bounce light, which is coming off the buildings. Now, I love when this stuff happens. Now, this particular bridge here used to be a train viaduct, which is why this area here is just so massive and covered with rivets. But also I want you to note something here about my hand. I've got light coming in from both this side and this side, and that's because there's the sun, but we're also getting lots of bounce off here and off here. And I love when you get this sort of fake feeling light, but it's not fake at all, it's absolutely real. It's really happening. Just creates a really interesting vibe. More to come, but I love the sharpness of this lens. I love the versatility. I think it really delivers for size, price, and weight. And if you're a traveler, this is a must-have lens. Absolutely. And we can see here that this lens bought in a bundle with, say, the Z5 is extraordinarily good value. At $16.99, it's basically like you're getting this lens for $700 US. And if you look at the Australian pricing, it's basically like you're getting this lens for around $1,000. In both cases, it's not quite half price, but it's close. So a great way to buy this is part of a kit. I have seen it as a kit as well with the Z6. It's possible that your local camera store would let you kit it with any body. And here are some images photographed on the Z6 II with the 24-200 f4 to 6.3 VR. This time they're full frame, and so we can get a sense of what the corners look like. And let's zoom in and have a look at this one. And if we go into 100%, we can see that looks very nice. Even up in the corners here, that is looking pretty sharp. Obviously it's at f6, but there's nothing you can do about it. That's probably the minimum aperture at that focal length. But it's a good looking lens, it's giving sharp results, and that's all you want. Obviously here we are right in the center at 200%, nice and sharp. But in the corners, that's still looking pretty good. Again, if this is just an all-purpose travel lens, what more do you need? You're not using it to photograph Cartier watches. And how often is corner sharpness that much of a big deal? And these are pretty sharp anyway. By the way, these images are pretty much unedited. This one is unedited. Now, they were doing some gas works. Perhaps there's someone out there that knows what all of these things mean. If someone could tell me, that would be amazing. Maybe it means this pipe goes under this pipe. And maybe that's how far they are underground, 0.6, 0.8, 1.2 meters underground. Maybe that's what it is. If anybody knows, let me know. Again, taken with the lens at 42mm, 46mm. I have played with this one because I just wanted to make those colors look crazy ultra. But I didn't do it with saturation. I did it just with contrast. Isn't that weird? Probably looks better there. Then the strangest thing, I saw these two people sitting on a roof. That's pretty good. I think I put the focus on this sign here. That looks nice. That looks nice and sharp. The interesting thing I thought, here's this girl here, and here's some sign saying that this has got radiation. It's some sort of antenna, and she's sitting right next to it. Not the best. Again, this image is untouched, we could have a little bit of a play with it, I suppose. I was just interested in where these people were sitting. We are a 200mm at full frame. I liked the color of this one. Again, 200mm, 1/125th of a second. We can see there's plenty of detail. We can see a drawing pin hole in the streamer is being rendered just fine at 100%. There it is. A lot of detail. I was standing on the opposite side of the road to this installation. And even in low light situations, interior, and these cakes here in the Chinese restaurant, desserts, looking beautiful. I quickly want to show you these images which were photographed when I first got the lens mid last year when we were in lockdown, and I was just driving around the neighborhood. There you go. You can see it was the start of August last year. This is on the Z6, full frame without a crop. Again, if we go into 100%, we can just see there's lots of detail there. Everything's looking great. And an image like this with trees looking fabulous. Again, we're looking into the bright light, and from my perspective, this has come up well. There's a lot of detail there. There's a lot of information there, and we're at 200%, so we're pixelating, of course, but looking great. Shooting directly into the sun, and that is handling things pretty damn well, if you ask me. We're at 100% directly into the sun at f6.3, 115mm, and this file is untouched, so impressive result. And one last image here, again, just to reiterate, Z6 on the lens in question at full frame. Go to 100%. There's a lot of information there, and that is looking really good.
I think even so this is not a prime top of the range lens, I think this is an example of what the Z mount is capable of. A lens like this is full of compromises. That's what it's all about. You are trading size and weight for the fact that you have 200mm. Amazing. Yet this lens still proved to be optically very good. I would probably give it somewhere between a 7 and 8 out of 10 versus, say, the 70-200 or pretty much any other Z lens I have used to date, except for the kit lenses that came with the Z50. Those lenses are in a similar sort of place, although they are lower quality, but kind of optically they're not. They're just built out of more plastic and so on. But this is an amazing lens. And for any traveler, anyone who wants to just get out there and do it light and easy without taking an entire kit with them, you can make this work. Now, if you're like me and you love short depth of field, well, that's harder to achieve, of course, with a lens like this. When you're at 200mm, sure, you can kind of fake it to a certain extent because of compression, but it is harder at the wider focal lengths. But I think the compromises are completely worth it. I think the price is right. And I have seen here and there around the world where it has been bundled with various bodies. And I think that is an awesome time to get this lens because it makes it super cheap. So is it for you? Well, I think this lens is for everybody, to be honest. Anybody could have this lens in their back pocket when they're going on holiday, when they're photographing the kids at school running around, when they just want a general all-purpose lens with them without carrying too much gear. This is the perfect lens. It's going to get almost everything you could ever want to do done, just with a few minor compromises. You can't say that about many lenses. Please, as usual, everybody, let me know in the comments below what you think of this lens. Do you have it? Have you been using it for a while? Have you found it to be successful? Do you think it's as good as I think it is? I think it's pretty damn good. All right, well, I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here today. It's amazing to see you, and if this is your first time here, I would love to see you again, so please do subscribe. Please click on the notification bell to make sure you come back next time we're here. Please share and please like. And of course, come and visit us here. We would love to see you here, although just quietly we're kind of going into maybe a mini lockdown, so who knows. But hopefully it's only a few days. By the time any of you get here, we'll be well past it. And of course, don't forget to check out our website. All right, I'll see you soon for the next one. Bye.